So in the last mini lecture we talked about calculating how to maximize profits. The goal of the firm is to maximize profits. And we said that profits are equal to total revenue minus total cost. So we explained what total revenue and total cost were last lecture. Total revenue is money coming into the firm. Total cost is money going out of the firm. And so profits is the difference between the two. And so now we want to talk a little bit more about how to calculate revenue and costs and how we're going to do it in this class. So the first thing that we want to stress is that calculating total revenue is fairly straightforward. Total revenue is just price multiplied by quantity of the goods that you sell, goods or services that you sell. So if you only sell one product, so say you're an ice cream store and all you sell is single cones, then we'd calculate total revenue just by calculating price minus the quantity. So we just want to subtract the quantity from the just multiply the price by the quantity. So we just want to we just want to multiply price by quantity. And as I said, we have price as a P and we have quantity as a Q. So price is P, quantity is Q. Okay, and we multiply the two together. So, for example, if you have ice creams and you sold 20 today, and they each cost $2, it would be 2 times 20, which would be $40 would be your total revenue. Okay, so that's how we calculate total revenue. Now, in fact, you're going to sell many products. So you might have single cones, double cones, cones with sprinkles on. You might also sell bottles of water. And so the way we'd calculate total revenue then is we'd add up the revenue for each product. So we'd calculate the total revenue for each product, and we'll label each product with an I. So down here with an I. And that I tells you which product it is, and we've maybe got N of them. So we've got product 1, that may be single cones, product 2, maybe double cones, all the way up to product N, which is bottles of water. And we add all those up to get your total revenue. So, and the total revenue for the first good is price of the first good times quantity of the first good. Then we add to that price of the second good times quantity of the second good. And then we add to that price of the nth good times quantity of the nth good. And this assumes you sell n goods. So if you sell many products, it's fairly simple to do this. It just becomes tedious. If you sell the same product at different prices, so maybe you have a discount for senior citizens, for example, then we could just treat them as different products. So we'd have single cones sold to senior citizens and single cones sold to non-senior citizens. So we just treat sales at each price as a separate product, and then we add them all up in the same way. So nothing particularly complicated here for calculating total revenue. Now, calculating costs, there's kind of two ways that you do this. One way is you just take all those costs you have and you sum them up to get your total cost. So you add up the wages you pay to your workers, the rent you paid to your landlord, the money you paid to your suppliers, all these things, and you add them up, and that would be one way of getting cost. And we'll do that in some examples in this course, but we're going to abstract more from that, and we're going to think more about costs in terms of cost functions. So this is a cost function. We've got costs, and what we think costs depend upon is how much of it you produce. So, for example, if you're selling single cone ice creams and you sell one, you don't need to buy much ice cream and you don't need to buy many cones for it. If you sell 1,000,000, then you've got to buy lots and lots of ice cream and lots of cones, so your costs will be higher if you're selling 1,000,000 than if you're selling one. So cost functions tell us the cost of producing Q units of the good. Now we call this a function because the way we'd say it is we'd say cost is a function of output. So we say cost is a function of Q, which is inside there, which is output. So cost is a function of quantity, or cost is a function of output. And what this means is that cost depends upon output. So is a function of means it depends upon that. Now note, the parentheses do not mean that you multiply C by Q. So this isn't C times Q. This is costs are a function of output, and it's slightly confusing if you're new to mathematical notation, because we do use parentheses to tell you how to order things when you're doing when you're doing problems. You do what's inside the parentheses first, and so you just need to get used to knowing this and working out from the context what it is. Am I telling you to multiply C by Q, or am I telling you to that costs are a function of quantity? And you'll need to decide to do it. you'll need to decide in individual cases what you're being told to do, and you get used to doing it, but keep it in mind that it can mean both things. And so what we do in place of q, whenever we see a q in the function, we substitute the value of that q in, and I'll give an example later. We make a few assumptions about this cost function. The first thing is we're assuming that the firm produces the good as efficiently as possible. So, for example, if you're making ice creams, you don't buy ice cream and then throw it away at the end of every day. You buy only the ice cream that you need, and you don't end up wasting things. You don't end up throwing cones on the floor, for example. You do things as efficiently as possible, so you don't hire workers who just sit around and do nothing. And this is the assumption we usually make. And note, we're kind of abstracting away from how to produce the goods efficiently. So we won't have much to say in this course about how to efficiently produce goods, how to arrange your production processes, these kind of things. We just assume that you know how to do this, and your other classes in your business education hopefully are covering it, because we're not going to cover it in this economics class. So here we have an example. We've got Taylor Swift. She released a new album, and she sold the first week 0.75 million CDs. So we're imagining that she's still selling CDs. Each CD is sold for $12, and she spent $2 million on advertising and other miscellaneous costs, maybe the shipping the CDs out to the stores. And each CD that she produced, she had to print and distribute, and that cost $6 per CD. So $6 for printing and distribution of each CD. And we're just going to assume there are no other costs. So we want to know, well, what does a cost function look like in this case? And then we're going to calculate her costs for the 750,000 CDs that she sold in the first week. Okay, so we're going to use Q as the variable for quantity, and that's what we're typically going to do throughout this course. And the way to think about it is Q is the number of CDs that she sold. So in this example, she sold in her first week 0.75 million, so Q would be 750,000 or 0.75 million. It's a number of CDs that she sells. So there's two components to her cost function. The first one is her fixed costs. And the fixed costs are any costs that are independent of how many CDs she sold. And in this case, the fixed costs were $2 million. So that's up here. She spent $2 million on advertising and other miscellaneous costs. Even if she doesn't need to print and distribute any CDs, she still has this $2 million of fixed costs from producing the album and advertising it, and these kind of costs, maybe her studio costs, etc. Okay, so her fixed costs are going to be $2 million. Okay, and the other component to her cost is the variable costs. These are the costs that depend upon how many CDs she sells. So in this example, there's only one variable cost. It's this one here. We have $6 per CD. So if we want to work out what the costs are, it's going to depend upon how many CDs she sells. If she only sells one CD, then she only needs to print and distribute one CD, and that's 6 times 1. If she does 1 million CDs, then she needs to print and distribute 1 million CDs. So her variable costs in this case are $6 per CD multiplied by the number of CDs that she sells. And that's the variable cost. It depends upon how many CDs she sells. And we'll talk more about fixed costs and variable costs in another mini lecture. So a total cost function is this fixed cost plus the variable cost. So it's going to be $2 million here. That's the fixed cost, so that's that one here. And plus the $6 per CD, which is her variable cost. So it's fixed costs plus the variable costs. Now note here that when we wrote fixed costs down, we didn't make them a function of Q. And there's a reason for this. That is, they don't depend upon Q. So we don't say fixed costs are a function of quantity because it doesn't depend upon the quantity. The $2 million is independent of quantity. Variable costs, on the other hand, are a function of Q. We have variable costs are a function of Q because it's 6 times Q. And our total cost function is a function of Q because it's fixed cost plus variable cost, so it depends upon this thing here, the $6 per CD. Okay, so that's her total cost function, and now we want to calculate what her costs were at 0.75 million CDs. So 750,000 is 0.75 million. Okay, so we want to substitute the number 750,000 in wherever we see a Q. Okay, so total cost if she sells 750 CDs is going to be total costs at evaluated at Q is equal to 750,000 is equal to 2 million plus 6 times, and we substitute in 750,000 for the number of CDs she sells. And now the parentheses here don't mean is a function of, they mean 6 times 750,000. So again, you need to just keep this in mind about when you do this. Okay, so 2 million, we just bring that down. Here it comes down. And then for the 6 times 750,000, which apparently is 4,500,000, we substitute in the 4,500,000. And then we add the two together to get her total costs are producing 750,000 CDs are $6,500,000. And that's how we do these calculations. So next mini lecture, we're going to talk a little bit more about fixed and variable costs.